Hello, my friends, and welcome to episode 209 of the Kiss Army Nation podcast. I'm your host, Pasquale Veri. Unfortunately, Claudio couldn't make it for this episode, and that's too bad, because tonight we are crossing oceans and time zones to spotlight a Kiss fan from down under. As you know, our fan profiles are about the fans, the lifeblood of Kiss, the ones who paint their faces, crank up the amps, and wave the flag no matter where they are in the world. Our guest is no different. Kiss Army Nation, please welcome my friend, Robbie Venditti. Welcome to the show, my good friend.
Thank you, Pas. Thanks for having me.
I've been looking forward to this. You know, talking to a Kiss fan, you can never go wrong.
Yeah.
So I want to learn more about you and your fandom, and we're going to start from the very beginning. So, how and where did you discover Kiss?
One day, or one night when I was little, we always used to watch this show, Countdown.
Yeah.
And because I wasn't a regular mover like you, because I was born with cerebral palsy, I was always in front of the TV. So, and one day, Kiss popped up and promoting their upcoming album, Rock and Roll Over, and I heard I Want You, and I was hooked.
Nice. So would you say that Kiss was an inspiration to you as a child?
Yeah, because I didn't have many other distractions. But yeah, they were an inspiration. It took me a while to learn all the names
Right.
and of the members and stuff like that. And then obviously as I got older, I backtracked from the ones that I missed, the albums that I missed. But I love them. They were very, not to be too simple, but they were very catchy.
Yeah. So I'm going to put you on the spot early in the episode, and I'm going to give you a few rapid fire questions. Okay.
Sure.
So the first one, your favorite album?
My favorite album is Destroyer, but because that was pretty well produced. But for sentiment reasons, obviously Rock and Roll Over.
Right. Are you like most fans that your favorite album changes over time?
Not really. I mean, when something's new, like you play it over and over and over again.
Yeah.
But it has to be a really good one to top what your favorite one is.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And what would be your favorite song?
My favorite song would be God of Thunder.
Nice. Why?
It's just it draws you in.
Mm-hmm.
Like it. I mean, it was, as you know, Pascal, it was meant to be a up-tempo number that Paul sang.
That's right.
But your fellow Canadian Bob Ezrin said, "You can sing it."
Yeah. I remember as a kid falling in love with Destroyer, and I used to always be into horror movies and stuff, and listening to God of Thunder with the screaming child and stuff. It was like, it scared the bejeebies out of me, that song, as a kid.
Yeah, and also God of Thunder, the studio version, is my ringtone to my phone.
Nice.
But I do prefer the live version of Kiss Symphony where I was at. But they couldn't put it on my phone, so I settled for the studio version.
Oh, fantastic. And you were at that show?
Yes, I was. The 28th of February, 2003.
And what are your thoughts about that show?
It was good. It copped a lot of SH1T, if I can say shit on your podcast, but it was good.
Okay. And who would you say was your favorite member?
Ace.
Okay.
Because he had an image, but Paul and Gene held Kiss together because Kiss are a company, and how many bands have a company?
Right, of course. I always find it interesting talking to fans, across the pond. We live Kiss every day here in North America, but I'm curious to know what it's like being a Kiss fan in Australia.
No different, but the only difference is that uh, you guys across the continent are closer to the band.
Yeah.
Yeah, but my when we came to the first tour, we had a big wait of 7 years before they came over,
Hmm.
and um, I just lived across the road from the stadium, which is no longer there anymore. And my mum wasn't going to pay $13.50 back in 1980 to go. And plus,
Yeah, yeah.
I went. She took me outside the ground where you could do it. In those days, and we sat on the grass for a little while.
Nice.
But these days, I guess you can't do that for health and safety reasons.
Hmm. Hmm. And do you think that Australian fans differ from fans in North America?
No, not at all. Not at all. If you love something, you stick with it. If you don't like them anymore, because a lot of Kiss fans, as you know, did drop off,
Hmm.
at, and that's a bit sad. But everyone's entitled to do what they want to do.
Yeah, of course. But you see, I asked that question because, you know, Australia is known for a legendary tour in 1980, the Unmasked Tour. And it was such a huge success in Australia. Why do you think that is?
Uh, Again, because we had a 7 year wait, and it was even more topical now because of the unfortunate 9/11 thing, because
Hmm.
it was recorded back in 1980 at the World Trade Center. And that was the first time all fans met Eric Carr. And that was a good episode. I don't know whether you've seen the countdown episode.
Yeah, yeah. Do you think Australian fans are more into the poppy Kiss sound or more the hard rock Kiss sound? And that's why I'm asking again, because Australia was so big in 1980.
Yeah, I think, um, yeah, the sort of the disco thing, the disco album of Dynasty, or Dynasty, as you guys say,
That's right.
and then they went a more watered down poppy with Kiss Unmasked, and yeah, that was sort of because it was the time. But I like all stuff of Kiss, some more than others, but you know, you give everything a chance.
Okay, I'll ask you this question then. How do you feel about Carnival of Souls? A more grungy Kiss.
That was cool, but I remember Paul's comment to Gene, "We can't out Metallica." So that was a good point.
Yeah.
But it was very good. I thought it just tipped Revenge, just tipped it. Yeah, but you know, Paul had a thing that you put the first song of every album on, and you know it's a Kiss album, and that was sort of yeah. Gene was the Hate was the brother of Unholy,
That's
and
right.
so
And we had a lull in 2024. Not much was happening in the Kiss world, and now with the announcement of Pop House and the Vegas announcement, which we'll talk about later, Kiss is coming back into the spotlight, and fans are getting excited about Kiss again. So, how is Kiss being perceived in your community right now?
the some of us are skeptical of the how this avatar thing is going to work. Is it going to be their voices produced again or whatever? And for many years, as you know, Pask, this were branded as a kids thing, because you liked them as a kid, I liked them as a kid, but we followed them on as we're adults, and it might go back to that again. And I don't think Gene and Paul want that.
Do you think the avatars are going to generate a younger fan base?
I think they might, a bit like an extension of in our time, because I think you're 3 years older than me, like the Kiss Dolls.
Hmm.
Yeah,
And you talked about the symphony. Would you say that's the most memorable Kiss event that you've attended in Australia?
Yeah, that was pretty big, but the end of the road tour was a bit more bombastic because that was the end. But then again, we thought the farewell tour was the end, but it was the farewell to Peter and Ace.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
So what are your thoughts about the final show?
I thought it was very good. They meant business that it was the last because nothing can last forever. We all know that. But again, a lot of people that are against Gene and Paul think they're just money hungry, but I think they're very smart.
And what are your thoughts about? I don't know if you saw the final two shows in New York City, and a lot of fans are complaining that it wasn't very emotional. What are your thoughts about those final shows?
I agree. It wasn't emotional. It was just Gene and Paul suited themselves who were going to be there. They didn't ask Peter or Ace, you know, and that was a bit sad. But Gene and Paul are for the now, and they embraced Eric Singer and Tommy Thayer. So that's their prerogative.
Okay. And have you ever traveled outside of Australia to see Kiss?
No, unfortunately.
Okay. And if there was one Kiss or Kiss-related event that you would love to attend, I mean, anywhere in the world, anywhere, what would it be?
Yeah, I saw the 1976 Anaheim concert, and I thought that was a pretty good one.
Wow.
And on video, but and then I would have liked to see Eric Carr's first concert with Kiss in 1980 at New York Palladium, and apparently that wasn't recorded.
And what concerts or events have you attended?
Pascal, I attended the 1995 Australian Kiss Convention.
Oh yeah.
In Melbourne, and because I am a wheelchair user, they put me right next to Gene, and and Paul was the first one to come up to me, and as we shook hands, I had to look at the rose, and he fell backwards laughing, because everything when he was coming towards me, everything, the way he moved, the way he talked, and everything. But I just had to look at the tattoo.
Nice. And that's an event that a lot of fans didn't get the opportunity to go see. What are your thoughts about that particular event? Back in 1995, I remember it costing about $100. Today, that will cost several thousand.
Yeah, $105 back in 1995.
Yeah.
A lot of people said that was a lot of money, but you can't complain for 12 hours.
Oh, it was incredible. They had the museum, they had vendors, the guitar clinic, drum clinic, the unplugged autographs. It was nonstop.
Yeah. The unplugged was probably a practice for the MTV album. So yeah, but it was good. Can't complain.
Oh, it was amazing.
Yeah, and they were good to me. I drank a lot of Jim Beam that night.
Nice. So Robbie, do you consider yourself a Kiss collector?
A little bit. I have a couple of things. I've got Love Gun pillows in the 1977 costumes. I've got the gold single of "I Was Made for Loving You" on framed, and I've got the thing that Gene and Paul signed for me to Robbie, all the best, framed, best wishes, Paul, Gene, Eric, and Bruce. So, but not that I travel across the world to get something like some people do.
And if there was one collector's item you would love to have, what would it be?
I'd have the whole Kiss company.
Yeah.
They do bring out good stuff.
Oh, for me, it would be that pinball machine. It's just getting out of hand right now. The price.
Yeah. Yeah, I've played the pinball machine, but it's a bit hard because I've got one hand.
Yeah,
It was enough for me. So
yeah.
yeah,
It's a cool experience.
yeah,
Do you follow any Kiss tribute bands or fan groups in Australia?
yeah. Dynasty and Destroyer, they were pretty good um, tribute bands. And I'm on Facebook, as you know,
Yeah.
and with Australian groups and stuff like that. I like to keep in touch with things, and a lot of people for fans are a bit critical, which I don't understand. Not everything can be good, or not everything can be bad.
And you mentioned those two tribute bands in Australia. What can you tell me about those two bands?
They're unique. They just they um they bring a lot of energy. They give what Kiss give bang for their buck.
And you mentioned that you're on Facebook. That's one of the ways you connect to fans. Are there other ways that you connect to the global Kiss Army?
Just through the internet, and then you see stuff on YouTube. Yeah, that's about it. But
Hmm.
I enjoy it.
Now you mentioned the impact Kiss had on you as a child. What impact has Kiss had on your life personally, in general, leading up to your adulthood?
I guess because I couldn't be active and play Australian rules and cricket. That was my passion. I don't have many other distractions, so it probably accentuated it even more.
So Kiss has influenced your passion for cricket?
I don't know. I mean, I've got other passions. I would have had more things to do if I was able-bodied. I mean,
Eh,
I go to the footy, the Australian rules footy, and I've got a local cricket club where I'm a life member and number one ticket holder too. I do other things, but this is my main thing.
now you mentioned having met Paul at the convention. Have
Yeah.
you met any other members of the band, and what can you tell us about those meetings?
Oh yeah, Gene and Bruce and Eric, because that was the '95 lineup, the year before the reunion, and they did mention that there's no chance of a reunion.
Yeah.
The barefaced lie. They tried to get me talking a bit more, but I was so um, awestruck. But
Hmm.
once I took a deep breath, I was okay. I was a bit emotional, but as everyone would be. But
Yeah, meeting your idols like that, absolutely. So which member do you identify with the most, and why?
Ace, because he lived the life of a rock star. But if he was on song with the other members, he could have been one of the great musicians. But you have to because we know Ace as a Kiss fan, we know the way he is. It's sad that he didn't continue on.
I remember something that Ace said once in an interview that he wished he practiced more.
Yeah, yeah,
Imagine if he did. I think he's amazing now. If he put more work into his craft, could he imagine the heights he could have achieved?
yeah. And apparently, Jimmy Page was asked, "What do you think of Ace?" And he said, "He's very unique." That's all he said. And then Ace said, "If Jimmy said I was shit, I would take it."
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, what would you say is your favorite lineup?
Oh, my favourite lineup, you can't go past the originals. In 1980, we saw they went above the jazz drummer to the John Bonham type, the heavier drummer, and Eric Carr
Hmm.
over Peter Chris. Yeah. And then Eric Singer was even a more deeper, bombastic drummer than Eric Carr. So,
I remember in '92, one of my favorite lineups was Bruce and Eric Singer, and I loved the direction that they were going in the early '90s. And I remember being disappointed that they let Bruce and Eric go for the reunion tour. I would have been curious to see what the band would be like after Carnival of Souls, but things weren't going very well at that time, and I don't know how much longer they would have lasted.
yeah, I'm still because it was, as you know, it was held off a couple more for the Carnival of Souls. I'm still curious how it worked because they were in the morning recording for the album, and then in the evening doing the reunion tour. How could they do it? But they did it.
So, Robbie, before we close the curtain on this episode, I'd like to get your opinion on several Kiss-related topics.
Yeah.
Now, you've touched on the avatars and how you feel about the avatars. Now, the avatars is a way of, I think, trying to get in new fans, continuing the Kiss legacy. So, if the avatars isn't the way to go, in your opinion, what should Kiss do to continue their legacy?
Well, that's a tough one. I don't know. Just like they always have this thing of the soundboard that of previous recordings. They don't want to tour, but keep it alive in some other way, like because musically they're still good, but there's an end. It's very hard, and they're a pretty commercial band. They can think of other things. I mean, they say they're even bigger than the band itself. And why does it have to wait till 2027? It must be a royal thing almost. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do you have any thoughts?
Oh, I think people have heard my thoughts over and over again. First of all, I remember at the final show how disappointed I was that there wasn't some kind of emotional aspect to the finale.
Yeah.
No tribute to the people that got them on that stage and kept them on that stage for 50 years. And to end it on a commercial, I was really upset. I felt betrayed. I was disappointed. And to be honest, I've been negative about the avatars. And looking back, I think it's because I was so disappointed in how the show ended. So I'm more upset about how the show ended than the avatars. It kind of took me a while to try to figure that out, why I'm so dead against the avatars. I think the avatars is going to bring something new, different, and special to the band. I think it's going to bring in new fans, younger fans. I don't know how long they can maintain the avatars, but it's going to be a great springboard to more to come. But in my opinion, they need to focus on releasing more box sets, more off the soundboards, more videos of live shows, because the band ultimately is about the music. Everything else is noise. It's the music that the fans want. And if you want to get new fans, they have to get hooked to the music, not to the gimmick, in my opinion.
That's right, yeah, because the box set in 2001, it was very, very good. But there was a lot of stuff that we already knew that was on. There wasn't enough demos that they said, well, we've got thousands of demos. But it was still very good, but they could have pushed a bit more.
Well, I don't know if you heard the Gene Simmons Vault, the music in there, 11 CDs. There was so much stuff, good or bad. It was fantastic to hear. And you really got an idea of his thinking process when he writes music. And I remember going to see him at the Vault Experience, and he spent like 2 hours talking about how he writes music and how he puts music together and songs together. And it's like a Frankenstein effect. He just takes a little bit here, a little bit there, and creates something new. It's really interesting.
Yeah. Gene and Paul couldn't be any more different as in people, but the same. They had the same drive. So maybe that's why they lasted 50 odd years.
Yeah, they're polar opposites, but they absolutely made it work for sure. Now, I know you heard about the Kiss Storms Las Vegas event. What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts about that?
That's a bit better than the Avatars, but then again, they said they were going to retire fully, so they've got another angle somewhere to do something. So, because I said, they're going to do a couple of concerts, but they said they're finished. So,
well, they finished touring. It doesn't mean necessarily they're going to stop performing.
Yeah.
And
but,
and in an interview, Gene said that in Las Vegas, don't expect a concert. And fans are like, what?
So, what are you going to be there for? It's like maybe a massive more of a convention. probably.
A Kiss cruise on land.
Yeah. That's more to the point. Yeah.
And speaking of music, speaking of new music, I think it's fantastic that someone like Ace Frehley, a founding member of the band, is still releasing new music. I love 10,000 Volts. He's coming out with Origins 3. And now I'm super excited about Peter Criss's upcoming album. What are your thoughts about that?
Peter, not so much. I admire he still wants to be out there. Ace had more of a connection with the fans, where Peter, he's okay, and he was a very good drummer, but it's sad how it ended up for him.
I don't know if you listened to BK3, Bruce Kulick's third album, and what I love about that album, it wasn't all Bruce singing. He had a lot of guests on the show, on the record rather, playing, singing, and Bruce singing for certain songs and not others. I'm hoping that the Peter Criss album is the same.
And plus, it's a bit like the solo albums way back when they had guest artists on that way, and this one on backing vocals and that sort of stuff. Yeah, I see where you're going there.
So, Robbie, what's your vision for the future of Kiss?
Well, I hope it goes good, because Gene and Paul didn't put all that work in for it to just totally stop, and they keep bragging on that it'll live past them. I don't know how serious they're going to take it, because they've got the biopic. Is it going to be a movie or a mini-series?
It's a Netflix biopic. Basically, all I know. I think it's going to be a movie. I don't think it's going to be there's going to be a biopic, and then there's going to be like a 5-part series for The End of the Road. And those I believe are two different projects.
But is that going to be? There's no acting in the End of the Road stuff.
No, but it's the biopic. It's going to be different actors playing Paul, Gene, Ace, and Peter, and whoever else, Bill O'Coin, and so on. Looking forward to that.
They're going to do the Wicked Lester bit, or?
I think the biopic is going from the Wicked Lester era up to 1975.
Yeah, that's what I heard too.
Yeah.
There's so many angles we can talk for years.
Well, I'm thinking, if the biopic does well, it could continue past 1975. There's so much they can cover.
Yeah.
And I hope that it gets successful, because I want them to adequately cover the 1980s. One thing about Paul and Gene, they're trying to ignore an amazing era, and thank God for Bruce for keeping that era alive, because Paul and Gene sure as heck is not.
Yeah. Bruce was a breath of what do they say? Fresh air.
Right. Absolutely. So, what do you think about Bruce and his band and the way he's keeping the 80s alive?
Pretty good, because he gave 12 good years to Kiss, and he's coming up in his 70s as well, being born in 1953, I think it is, and he's a musician's musician.
Yeah.
He was a gentleman too.
Oh, absolutely. And I saw Bruce and his band a couple of times on the Kiss cruise, and I love that they're playing songs that Kiss would never play live. And it's no secret, I mentioned this before in the show, I'm not a big fan of Gene's contributions in the 80s. I love the Paul stuff, not the Gene. But man, when Bruce and his band play some of the Gene stuff live, it sounds incredible.
Yeah, funny you should say that, because in the fanzine Crazy Crazy Nights, Gene himself said he wasn't favourable of his 80s contributions.
Yeah, unfortunately, he wasn't there. He was focused on acting and other things. And if it wasn't for Paul, that ship would have stopped sailing a long time ago.
That's right, Past. That's right.
So, Robbie, before I let you go, what would you like to say to the North American Kiss fans on behalf of the Australian Kiss Army?
Well, we're all family, Past. We might have to cross water, but we're all family. Whether you have tattoos or not, like I've got the solo albums, we are all part of the Kiss Army.
Absolutely. I'm a high school teacher, and I teach ethics. And one of the things in the program is teaching about internet ethics, the dangers of the internet. I think social media, if used right, is such an amazing thing because in terms of the KISS Army, it brings us together as a family. And
That's right.
I think that is what is going to keep the memory of KISS alive. It won't be KISS and their gimmicks and whatever they come up with between now and God knows when. It's us that keeps that legend alive. And if it wasn't for the KISS fans, they're not going to be around for very much longer if it's not for us, in my opinion.
That's right, Pascal. I agree.
So I'm saying this because you are, my friend, are such a fan. It's fantastic talking to you. You're like 14 hours ahead. It's 10 o'clock your time in the morning.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like 8:30 my time in the evening the day before. And having the opportunity to speak to a fan across the pond like this, this wouldn't happen 15, 20 years ago. And I one of the things I love about this show and the fan profiles is, talking to fans about their fandom. And every time that I do, I get more excited about KISS because I thrive off the passion of other KISS fans.
Yeah, and when we were a lot younger and KISS weren't as popular, I couldn't understand why, as a little guy, everyone wasn't a KISS fan, but as an adult, you can appreciate it more that, okay, it's not their cup of tea.
Absolutely. But I checked out in the early 80s. I came back late 80s, around 88. And I think if social media was around then, I wouldn't have checked out because KISS wasn't very busy in the early 80s when I checked out.
Yeah, because apparently the internet started in 89 in its really infancy and then built up by 2005 and now 2025. It's massive.
Exactly. And I don't think that social media necessarily helped KISS promote their band. I think it helped fans come together to promote the band. And that is what is keeping the legend of KISS alive, the legacy of KISS alive.
Yeah, that's cool. But I think the naysayers that are on fan pages aren't really KISS fans. They just knock them for no reason.
Yeah, I don't understand that. Why people troll. You don't like something, go somewhere else. Why do you go to a KISS page and put them down and what fans like? It's like, no.
Yeah, it's like someone from Coca-Cola drink Pepsi.
That's right. That's right. But you are not such a fan. You are a passionate fan. You are a positive fan. And it's great that KISS has inspired you, has made your life better. And that's what being a KISS fan is. It's seeing the positive, and especially the message of KISS. Live your life to the fullest. You make your own rules to your own life. I think it's an amazing message to the KISS Army.
Yeah, it is. My life isn't perfect, obviously, but there's a lot of people that are worse off than me.
Absolutely. And my friend, again, thank you so much for coming on the show. And, never let go of this passion you have for the band.
Yeah, thanks, Pask.
To the KISS Army, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have any questions, comments, or ideas, please send them to talktome@kissarmynationpodcast.com. Until the next time, remember, never stop rocking. Take care, everyone.